Hey, how are you today? This is Josh Patrick, and you're at the 50/50 Accelerator podcast. And my guest today is Gary Engels. He is the CEO of MyGig. It's a fintech company, from what I understand. But we're going to have Gary tell us what it is, and then we're going to jump in and do a little bit of work on how Gary might think about 50/50 his business. And 50/50 stands for, by the way, 50% more profits, 50% less time on tactical activities. So let's bring Gary on. Hey, Gary, how are you today?
Wonderful, Josh. Good to see you here today.
Thanks a lot for joining me. So tell me what my gig does.
Sure. So, yeah, my gig is focused on business services. Gig. What is a gig worker? Let's start with there. The people that we serve are essentially 1099 workers. In today's economy, 52% of our workforce has a 1099. The world is changing. And many of them have W-2s also, but they have a side gig, that 1099 income, right? And when you fall into that world, right, when you fall into a side income or a gig worker, a lot of times you don't have access to a lot of the same resources that a large company might have, right? A large company might offer health benefits. They might offer, security systems, IT security for your computers and things like this. They might offer a PEO, HR solutions and whatnot. And as a gig worker, as a 1099 worker, you don't have access to those things. So we help them out. We provide a lot of those solutions for them. The Gen Z world, 72% of Gen Z is a 1099 worker nowadays, right? And it's just growing at an exponential rate, and things are changing. And so we want to make sure that that side of the workforce is taken care of and has the business solutions that they need. On top of that, my gig is an affiliate platform. And so we offer an opportunity to sign up as a reseller for those services and create a side income for themselves.
So they can sell your services? Is that what you? Oh, that's
That's
cool.
right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your business. So I noticed, just for everyone knows, every guest that comes on our show, I have this little assessment I ask them to do because it helps me figure out what we might want to drill in on and talk about to have a reasonable conversation that will help Gary and help you at the same time. So, Gary, there you are. It appears that you are not thrilled with your hiring strategies. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, when we're just getting started here, we have a solid team in place, and we're just haven't focused on that side. So when you say not thrilled about it, it's just not something that we've really tremendously focused on. We are recruiting right now, right? We're recruiting new certified resellers, enterprise partners, and channel partners that we work with. And so, as far as like hiring versus recruiting, those are just two different things. And the hiring side of our business, we haven't focused a whole lot on.
So, do you hire people?
Yeah, we have 25 employees, but
Right.
just
So the
not
people.
rapidly expanding right now. We have a solid team in place.
So, what's your success rate when you hire?
Well, success rate when we hire. Well, we just launched here in June with my gig, and so
Okay.
I don't know how to
So you
really
haven't
answer
been
that
so you
question.
haven't been around long enough to really
Right.
have much in the way of turnover.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. How happy are you with the people you've hired?
Yeah, great. Like I said, we have a solid team in place. That's why we haven't needed to focus on hiring.
Okay.
We came from a situation where we brought a company, Anchor Accounting, and 10 years of experience with what they were doing, and we brought a lot of their people over here as well. Anchor, the Anchor Group is our parent company, and they helped create the formation of my gig. So my gig is new, but it's not new, right? We've been around for 10 years and working with other tax credits and other services, business services for a long time. So we took some of the existing staff and the people that we had with the larger company, and we moved them over into my gig. And so, like I said, the hiring process hasn't really been a major focus of ours because we already had a team in place to be able to step into those roles.
So the anchor folks, what do they do for your customers?
Well, if you think about reselling a service, right? There's kind of a couple different sides to selling, right? One is selling, then one is the fulfilling side of it. you don't have to do the fulfilling, right? My gig as a certified reseller, you don't have to fulfill any of the products. That's what Anchor does. That's what our partner companies do. When you
So
resell
what
a
does
solution,
what does Anchor do?
yeah, well, Anchor Accounting is an example. We Anchor Accounting has a FICA tip credit that they offer. A lot of restaurants overpay in their FICA taxes, and so Anchor Accounting has a platform where you can bring a restaurant to their service. They will go through all the filing for them, work with them directly as an accounting service, and file the claim, and they can get a significant portion of those FICA tip taxes back for them. And so, like I said, as a reseller, you sign up a restaurant, you bring somebody to the landing page and kind of help them get into the funnel and the situation. Well, the reseller doesn't have to actually be the accountant. The reseller doesn't have to be the person to fulfill. That's what Anchor Accounting does.
Okay. So what's the biggest challenge that you're having with my gig?
Biggest challenge. Okay. Well, it's I would say just speed to market, right? And so when you're getting up and running, right, we are right now actively recruiting certified resellers, right? And we have a solution that is plug and play; it's ready to go. We're just in a matter of looking for those resellers to be able to step in and start offering those services to other people. And so, biggest challenge right now is just we're ready to rock, we're ready to expand, and we're just in the process of recruiting.
So when you're recruiting, you're recruiting people to resell your services, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And how do you go about doing that?
Well, we have different incentives there. We have our channel partners are the biggest focus for us right now. Our channel partners are some of these larger organizations that have groups of people that they already work with, and they're bringing them in for us. We work with some enterprise partners like an accounting firm and places like this that already have staff and already have a group of people that they bring together, and so we're partnering and working with them right now. And so we're like our VP of sales, Alex. He is right now just booking meetings every day and just working with some of those enterprise partners to bring them in.
Does he have a challenge getting in front of these folks?
Yeah, I think that we could always fill that calendar more, and that's where I think that the hiring process and things like that is going to come in even more. But and any businesses are run by systems, right? And those systems are run by people. And the systems right now are in place, and we have our VP of sales and our sales team is building those systems out. We just need to plug people into those systems.
You also need to train them.
That's right.
So how do you go about doing that?
Yep. So my gig has a whole learning management system, and we have a whole series of training videos, and we call them certified resellers because we don't just sign somebody up and then just say go, right? We have a whole certified reseller process where you're going to go through, like with this FICA tip credit that I was mentioning, right, as one product that we offer. We have a system for training where they step in and they watch a series of videos, and they become a certified reseller and they get a certificate, showing that they went through that training. But that helps them build the confidence, be able to understand what it is.
You've not been around long enough to probably have any rogue certified resellers yet, have you?
Yeah, no, there's some few people that have gone through that process. Yeah.
I mean, rogue. I mean, people who you certify, but they end up not doing what you want them to do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, too new to even say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, that's going to happen. That's where the compliance department comes in, and we're going to make sure that we're protecting our opportunity and protecting what we have, so that way people aren't going out and saying something that they shouldn't be saying, right? You can't go out there and start thinking that you're representing the IRS or making guarantees or promises. That your promise as a restaurant, you're going to get this much money back. You can't do that. And
Right.
the compliance stuff, that's part of the training and why that stuff is important.
So is Anchor? How big is Anchor?
Well, Anchor has processed about $1 billion in tax credits through ERC and the self-employed tax credit and things like that over the last 10 years. As a referral or affiliate platform, that side of things, I mean, they've paid out. I don't know the exact number, tens of millions of dollars in commissions paid out to their affiliates that have shared those numbers or shared those offers in the past, and they're huge. They just transferred everything over from an older platform that they had into a new platform called MyGig.
Okay, so does Anchor own you guys, or how's the relationship between you and Anchor?
Yeah, they're the parent company. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about how you decided to join with them? What was your decision process with that? Because this is, a lot of companies are, say, okay, well, if I go with a larger company,
Hmm.
I'll have more resources and more scale and more blah, 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 blah. But I've found often in the past that sometimes it doesn't work out because it's not a very good partnership. So
Yeah.
how did
So
you go about through the process of deciding anchors who I want to partner with?
well, that's not exactly the relationship there. Right? The Anchor Group was the founder of my gig, right? We
Okay.
created it together, right? This is not my idea. I'm not the founder of my gig, right? My gig was created by the Anchor Group,
So in other
and
words, you're a hired gun.
I was brought in, as CEO to help manage and promote and build my gig. Yeah, for sure.
And how did they decide to bring you in? And how did you decide that you want to be brought in?
Sure. Yeah. No, there's definitely some past relationships and some past things that I've done. I built a marketing agency, and we were spending millions of dollars a year on Facebook ads and things like that. And I've gone down that road. I've been a gig worker, a entrepreneur in the. I ran a brick and mortar business. I ran a martial arts school for 20 years, so I've been in that world and understood, what that takes, to run just a brick and mortar business. All the different side gig type opportunities and things like that in the past that we've done. And then I was even brought on as a COO of an education company, and we built that company up to be sold and purchased by a larger company that bought us out and kind of worked myself out of a job. And so that was a great exit and that whole process, and that led me into a place where I had some open time. And so through some relationships that would brought me into it, and relationships that trusted and understood what I was capable of, they said that I'd be a great fit for the CEO position to be able to step in.
Cool. So you work for folks at Anchor, correct?
Yeah.
How are they going to evaluate your success?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and obviously on results, right? We track our KPIs daily. We track, the success of our certified resellers, right? Those are important measures, right? If you want to be successful yourself, right, it's completely 100% tied to the success of others around you, and you know,
I have a
that's all
question
that
for
really
you.
matters.
This is one of my trick questions.
Yeah,
What's more important, your staff members
hmm.
or your customers?
That is a trick question.
It is.
Yeah, there's no great way to answer that, right? I always looked at, in business, in any opportunity, right? That your customers are your boss, right? If they're not happy, right, everything falls apart. But how do you keep them happy? Good staff, good training on the staff to keep them happy, and so it's a symbiotic relationship. You can't possibly say that the customers are more important than the staff that helps them be successful.
Yeah, my experience is if you don't treat your staff as your very best customer,
Yeah,
they will return the favor to your customers. Meaning
yeah,
that
they're
if
the
they
front
don't
line.
love working for you and love what they do,
Yeah,
they're going to make your customers' lives not as friendly as they could be.
that's right.
And so I've always maintained that the number one job of a company is to have really happy frontline employees. Because if your frontline employees are happy, your customers are happy.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
And I use United Airlines as my favorite example of that. About 15, 20 years ago, United had a CEO from hell. And flying on United was nothing but terrible every single time you stepped on their planes. And I used to fly them a lot. And then around 6, 7, 8 years ago, they changed CEOs, And all of a sudden, United went from being a terrible experience to being a pretty good experience. It was really simple. The CEO stopped punishing their employees and started
Hmm.
treating them with some value.
Yeah,
And
trickle
for
down
me,
effect.
that was a pretty big lesson. So you guys, you're very system driven. You're very KPI driven. And I like to take KPIs and make them into dashboards, but that's just my sort of
I do the
thing I
same
like
thing.
to
I
do.
agree. Yeah.
So, how did you come across choosing your KPIs? This is a big deal, by the way, for folks who are listening, because too often I go into a business and I ask them what they're measuring, and they give me this
Hmm.
laundry list of 32 items.
Yeah.
So, how many KPIs do you guys focus on every day?
Um, about 10.
Okay.
And what's interesting about um, the idea of that is something that I actually used to teach in the martial arts world is the idea of momentum goals and milestone goals. And I think that that kind of helps us understand where we came up with these KPIs that we're going through. The the idea of a milestone goal, like kind of where the top of the mountain, where are you headed? What's that big ultimate goal that you're looking to accomplish, right? The the BHAG, right? The big hairy audacious goal, right?
Right.
What's that big thing that you're aiming for? And then you start to work backwards, right? Well, before I can get there, what has to happen? And before I get there, what has to happen? And before I get there, what has to happen? And you start to walk your way backwards on that journey. And it's a great exercise to sit down and kind of go through all this. And you say, all right, so right down to the daily process, right? The daily goal. What is necessary to accomplish? And that's where your momentum goals come in, your daily KPIs, right? There was one time part of a black belt test that I had to accomplish. I had to do 50,000 push-ups in a year, and it was a part of our process, right? It was just one of those things, right? It was like, and I realized this has nothing to do with the push-up. It has to do with learning how to set and achieve a large, crazy goal. And there was a lot of other pieces to that, but just to simplify and break it down, it was like it was 150 a day, and I can't do 150 push-ups. I don't know about you, but so how
I
does that
couldn't do
break down? Okay,
150
well I have to do
push-ups in my
50.
lifetime.
so, so you got to do 50 in the morning, 50 in the afternoon, and then 50 before bed. And that was something that was achievable, right? And if you couldn't do 50, okay, great, then you break it back down to I'm going to do 10 every hour or whatever it is. But eventually you'll find a place where it's like, okay, I can do that, right? That's achievable, right? And you start to shape your daily process, shape your day around how can I achieve that smallest piece, right? That's that tiny KPI. And I think that's the process of it. And we're still working on it too. Like I said, still new in the process of understanding these, and we're still fine tuning those. But
So I'm gonna make a suggestion. I don't know if you're doing
mhm,
this or not, but
sure.
it sounds like your KPIs are all historical, meaning you're measuring something that's already happened. Do you have any
Yeah.
KPIs
Mhm.
that are predictive that say this KPI, if it moves this direction, is a good thing 90 days from now? It moves in a different direction, it's a bad thing 90 days from now. So I have like three, four, five things I can really focus in on that's going to tell me whether I have a problem in the future or not.
It's great advice. I'm not tracking that currently, no.
Okay, okay. In my experience, it's way more important than the goals we set.
Sure.
Here's why. I used to be in the food service and vending business back in the dark ages,
Hmm.
and I tell this story a lot. Is that those restaurants vending machines that have candies and chips and pastries and all that kind of garbage? Well, our average collection per service was $43, and if I had set a goal of what we accomplished, which was a 400% improvement, nobody would ever have believed it. We never would have gotten there. So we just did better. So we did these experiments along the way. We went from saying, okay, we're going to get rid of the jujubes and put 2 rows of Snickers in
Hmm.
because Snickers were always sold out. And then we ended up doing 3 rows of Snickers and 4 rows of Snickers and 4 rows of M&Ms. And so eventually we went from having 40 items in the machine down to 15 items in the machine. And you know what happened when we did that? Because it was the right 15 items. Our our productivity went from $43 a service to $142 per service.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Now you think about that. Now I could have never in the world used KPIs to get me there. So it's one of the reasons I say,
Yeah.
my goal is better, but at the same time, I want to know what's going to happen in the future. The way we used to measure that was we tracked head counts at our customers. So let's say we had an account that had 575 people, and every quarter we would ask every customer how many people were working there. And if that went from 575 down to 525, down to 475, down to 425, we knew we had to go back to that client and renegotiate.
Sure.
But if it went from 575 to 675 to 775, we knew we had to sharpen the pencil because our competitors would be in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of a predictive KPI measurement that's going to tell me what I need to be doing in the future.
Yeah, that's great. And I can really see from the Snickers example too, right? If you had a KPI of, hey, we want to sell 10 Snickers a day out of this machine, right?
Right.
And, you're celebrating like, hey, we hit 10, we hit 10, we hit 10. And then you never realize how much more you could grow
Well,
with
we
that.
actually could have sold 40 a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
so
your
it really
KPI
comes
was
down
limiting
to a
you.
lot of times when we're doing our measurements, we want to be really, really mindful of what's going to help us move the needle in the future.
Yeah.
And having big rocks is always a great thing. There's nothing wrong with having a,
Right.
a 3-year goal, 5-year goal.
Exactly.
I'm not especially fond of 10-year goals because I don't think anybody can look 10 years out and say this is what's going to happen. But some
Yeah.
people do it, and so I'm not opposed to it, but I'm more excited when somebody tells me, here's the measurements that are going to tell me what's going to happen in the next 90 days of my business.
Yeah. It's like predicting the weather, right? The further you go out, the less accurate it
Less
is.
it is.
Yeah.
Like I work a lot with contractors. And if you look at a construction company, what's the most important number for them to track? Is backlog. Because if their backlog is going up, they know they might need to hire people. If the backlog is going down, they better get their sales force in motion, or they're going to have a problem in the future. So it's really pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I think every business has that sort of stuff. So I would encourage you in your business, say, gee, what can I do to make predictive measurements that will help us figure out we're going in the right direction or not? But that's just my idea. So
no, that's great. That's great feedback. Yeah.
So Gary, unfortunately, we're out of time. So how would folks go about finding you if they wanted to, and if they wanted to become an affiliate and you happen to be a gig worker, how would they do that?
Yeah. You go to joinmygig.com is the easiest place.
Okay.
Joinmygig.com. Yeah.
Okay. And would you be willing to talk to folks that are interested?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah. We have a place on there where you can watch a overview video, and you can also book an appointment with us if you wanted to speak with with one of us to be able to discuss questions and whatnot before getting started. So yeah.
Cool. That's great. And I've got 2 things I'd like you to do.
Sure.
The first is please go to wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Amazon or wherever, and leave us an honest rating and review. If you love us, you give us 5 stars. If you found some real value in this conversation, you can give us 5 stars. You've said, boy, this was a waste of time. You give me 1 star, and I cry, and you don't care, but I cry anyhow. I usually cry when I get 1 stars. And the second thing is, if you own a business and you're like Gary and you say, gee, this would kind of be fun to be on this podcast as a guest, why don't you send me an email? It's really easy. It's jpatrick at stage2, that's number 2 solution.com, and solution is singular. So it's jpatrick at stage2solution.com, and just say, hey, I listened to the podcast. I'd like to be a guest. I'll send you a link. We'll have a conversation, see if it makes sense for you. If it does, then you're on the show. So this is Josh Patrick. We're with Gary Engels. You're at the 50/50 Accelerator podcast. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.